Hi, this demo will explore LiteracyTA's literacy skill curriculum and explain how subject area teachers can use this curriculum to teach their content. We're going to start in the LiteracyTA Toolkit, or the LTA Toolkit, and we're going to click in the skill library. Now, to access a skill page in the skill library, you're either going to click into reading nonfiction, reading fiction, the writing center, speaking and listening. Or remember, there's another way to find skills through the standards. And then the third way is through DOK, building DOK. So if I scroll past the 5 steps to reading, I can find building DOK. So there's 3 different ways that you can access the skill pages that I'm going to be talking about in this demonstration. The first way is by choosing a focus of fiction, nonfiction, writing, and or speaking and listening, and then standards. And the last way is building DOK. So for this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the 5 steps to confident reading. And the 5 steps to confident reading has a drop down for reading purposes. And I'm going to choose read for main ideas. And when I choose read for main ideas, the skills refresh. And remember from previous demonstrations that these skills on the right are aligned to the processes or steps on the left. So we're going to go ahead and start with writing in the margins. This is a step 3 read for comprehension skill. When I click on writing in the margins, I'm going to be taken to what's called a skill page. A skill page is where a teacher can find all of the materials to teach this skill. The classroom lessons, the handouts, the planning tools, the assessment tools, and when available, the student samples. So I'm looking at the writing in the margins skill step by step on the skill page. And we've added these numbers just to add a little bit of color and interest to the page, but also to guide teachers to help them know where do I start and what are the exact steps. So our plan 1, our step 1, plan your lesson, we have a learning pathway that you can use, which is a great guide to help you release responsibility to your students. So what we're looking at here is a guide that tells teachers, here's some evidence-based strategies to use when you are introducing a skill to students. And this is what students do in this phase called I do. And this is where the teacher is modeling specific steps in a process or how to use a skill. And then as students become more proficient, we can move to we do. And that means that the students and the teacher are participating. And then you can find out what the students do on the right-hand side, and so on and so forth. So as students learn a skill and practice it more and more, we can start to release responsibility to them. And we start with you, the teacher, and then us, the class, and then the students themselves working in groups, and finally them working on their own. So this is what we call the cycle of independence. And this pacing guide is available on all of our skill pages. We also have a planning journal. The planning journal is nice because it slows us down as educators, and it gets us to think about how we want to use this skill, what we want to use it for, what do we need to do in order to effectively teach the skill. And we give you some sample entries here. So under each blank, we explain what you could do. We give a model or an exemplar here so that you kind of understand what you should be writing in each space. It's a very short 2-page planning journal, but it's really nice because it allows you to really think through the process of planning a skill. So this is available on our skill page as well. So here's where we start in step 1. And then step 2, we have our instructions. So in our instructions, you click here, and we've made all of our handouts PDFs so that you can enlarge them easily. And that way, kids in your room, if they are sitting too far back or you have a smaller projection unit, you can enlarge these handouts so that they are much more visible across the room. And you could either print these for your students, or you can project them, or print a single copy and place them under your document camera. But all of our skills have very clear instructions and routines that, once learned, students can start to become independent and use them independently. So it's really exciting that there's that consistency. And then there's a student activity. So if you want your students writing on a graphic organizer or a handout, we also have those for all of our skills as well. Then there's a classroom presentation. Now, this is one of my favorites, because now, instead of just having these handouts in this order where I have to come and click and open all the time, I can click on this interactive lesson and my web page just transformed into a presentation. This presentation follows the best teaching practices and frameworks of Danielson and Marzano. We start with checking in with students, figuring out what they know, what they remember from the skill, how they think this is going to be used, where did they struggle, what were their strengths the last time. And then as you click your arrow, it advances like a PowerPoint presentation. And we have very clear instructions listed here for your students. Then we have the handout, the instruction handout, and the activity appropriately placed on the slide that you would need them. I arrow over, and now I have my rubric. So this is going to be given to my students probably before they do the activity so that they know what my expectations are. But I have it here now so that I can grade or assess the process of comprehension reading. So at LiteracyTA, we have rubrics that assess skills, because skills are all about the process of learning, and we care about measuring the process, evaluating that process, and giving students feedback so that we're not just grading the end product, but we're grading them along the way. We're giving them feedback along the way. As I continue to arrow through, you'll see samples, and then there's a closing slide as well. Here's what's really nice about these slides. Not only do they organize the handouts where you need them, and they categorize them in where they should be. So if I'm giving my instruction slide, I need the student instructions and I need the student activity. So that's really nice. But what also is nice is that we have a digital timer. And this digital timer can be used to pace a specific part of this skill lesson. It can be used to pace the entire lesson. And it's very easy to use. I just click timer, set my time, press start, and it starts. I can pause it, I can resume, cancel, and have it go away. Additionally, in this presentation, we offer a collaborate tool. So let's say there's 34 students in your class. So I'm going to type in 34, and I'm going to press assign. This is going to give students in my class a number. If I want my students meeting in pairs, I can choose 2, and my students will mix in pairs of 2. If I want my students taking those pairs and making them into small groups of 4, I just need to type in 4 and mix, and now I'm randomly mixing students. Now you see down here that this is a 5 and a 5. This is always an issue with us in our classes when we don't have an exact number that we need for all even groups. The collaborate tool will fix that for you and tell you where those extra students should go. After the students have worked in a small group, whether it be a discussion or building something, I can pick a student randomly by my controls down below. I can pick a group, or I can pick a student in a group. It gives you a ton of flexibility when you're trying to do random groups, when you're engaging students in lots of different discussions with different partners in the classroom, and it's all here in the classroom presentation. And I can roll it up when I click collaborate, and it disappears. I exit, and now I'm right back on that same page writing in the margins. All of this so far that you've seen comes with the skill page. I'm on writing in the margins, and there's a skill page. Here we go. Step 1, step 2, and now we're moving on to step 3. Step 3 is where I can differentiate and support learning. A lot of times in our step 3, we're going to have language support resources. So let's take a look at this one. So these language support resources help students with their writing in the margins. So these are just different thoughts that students might have while reading, and they can use these starter sentences to write down their ideas in the margin, or if you wanted them to write it down in the handout. It depends on what you prefer. But this language is really important because it models academic language. And remember, because these are PDFs, I can enlarge these, and I can make them much bigger than they first appear. And that way, students across my room can see them very easily. The last step is assess and track growth, step 4. And there is a rubric and a performance tracker and a teacher reflection. Now, the rubric is really easy to use. We are teachers helping teachers. We do not have overly complex or complicated rubrics. We want you to have very clear language in your rubric that your students will understand. We want you to be able to assess very quickly so that your grading time goes down. So they're very simple to use. Use a highlighter, however you feel comfortable, and mark up your rubric. Our performance tracker is also available on all the skill pages, and this is where students would write writing in the margins here. They would say what is their overall goal or score that they would like to have over time. And then every time that the students work with writing the margins and you assess it, they write the date and their score. And then they write the next date that they use writing in the margins, and they get assessed or evaluated, and then they color in their score. So over time, you should see, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 different entries and then their scores, and you will see an increase in their scores. We call our skill pages, and our skill pages are the heart of our literacy skill curriculum. And remember, you can access these 3 different ways: through the standards, through the skill library, and through DOK, building DOK. When you get to the skill page, you can teach these individually, these handouts, or you can click on your interactive lesson, and then you can scroll through the slides. What's nice about being in your interactive lesson is that you have a timer, and you have your Collaborate tool. Our skill pages are designed to be used school-wide. So we want teachers in all subject areas to be using common language and a common approach. And the research is clear on this. If students are using a common language and a common approach when learning literacy skills, their knowledge of those skills increases exponentially. They're able to transfer more easily from class to class. Their retention of those skills from year to year improves. And the goal of all goals is that as we move kids up in years, the next year from middle school to high school, from high school to college, they take what we teach them and they can apply it independently without us there anymore. They can do it on their own. They can be strategic and independent users of these skills. Our skill pages are designed so that teachers, departments, whole school-wide or grade levels can teach kids the same way to attack texts, the same way to read deeply, the same way to summarize and write with evidence, so that the guesswork is removed for our students. They already have to learn our content. Let's go ahead and give them skills that they can rely on that are predictable from class to class. That's our ultimate goal. This curriculum is going to help you. It's standard-aligned, it's evidence-based, the work has been done for you. Take some time to explore these skill pages. I think you're going to be really excited about what you see.